Maybe working as an accountant in a grey, sterile office landscape hadn't actually been the worst fate in the world. As you woke up finally from several nights of excruciating pain, your body twisted and transformed in grotesque and painful ways, the horror you felt was matched only by the disgust of your new form, and the hunger rumbling inside of your belly, almost tearing at you from the inside. Your limbs were crooked and twisted, your skin wrinkled and covered in warts and pustules, and all hair on your body was gone, except for the clumps of thick, coarse strands growing in your ears and nose, both of which had grown to almost comical proportions, amusing were it not for the horrific monstrosity they combined to make you, as you looked at your reflection in the pool of water next to where you had been for the last several nights. You had been taken from the street on your way home from work, dragged down into a sewer, and drained of blood by a creature that resembled something from a nightmare. Yet the pleasure of it all had been a juxtaposition that made it all seem like some kind of drug-addled dream, and as your heart slowed down to a crawl, then stopped completely, you couldn't help but wonder if you would wake up in your own bed in a few hours, having sweated out whatever it was that made you hallucinate this. But of course it wasn't a dream, because you felt more awake, more alert than you had ever done before, and the hunger, which at first had been a pulling ache, steadily grew to become an overwhelming obsession that tugged at your very being, like a master dragging a helpless mutt by its collar. You needed to feed. Life was all around you, and even though it disgusted you, you tore into the first rat you could catch, suckling the life out of its tiny body before you threw yourself after another, and another. They barely scratched that itch, but it brought clarity to your mind, and you began to observe your surroundings. And that's when they came out of the shadows. That's when they told you what you were. To play a Nosferatu is to play an outcast. No matter who they were in life, their transformation has cursed them to become hideous to behold, twisted and malformed, as if the wickedness of the vampiric curse and the beast within them has clawed its way to the outside, manifesting itself there. In life, you could have been anyone: a movie star, a famous author, a special forces operative, a runaway, or even a deranged serial killer. Your human life tends to be the reason for why you are embraced into Clan Nosferatu, either because of the skills and lifestyles you had acquired made you a suitable and desirable candidate, or because you needed to be taught a lesson of humility and be taken off your high horse. Regardless of your origins, amongst the Nosferatu you are an equal, in a sense. Of course, there is still rank amongst the sewer rats, but this is based on experience, skill, and know-how, which makes them a society far more egalitarian than most human communities. Your looks, for one, matter nothing. Neither does your personality, as long as you can at least function with others of your clan. You're not winning any beauty contests, and if you're a bit antisocial or prone to occasionally tear people's faces off and wear them as your own, well, as long as they deserve it and you're not breaking the masquerade, that might be overlooked. The local brood of Nosferatu, that is to say the community of them, is often the first vampires a fledgling Nosferatu get to know, and sometimes that may last for years, or even longer if the new recruit turns out to be one of the less sociable ones. These might instead end up spending the majority of their unlives in the warrens of their brood, whether it be because they're antisocial hackers who rather spend their times in front of the monitors, or that they may legitimately unnerve other clans and ruin whatever goodwill the Nosferatu may have in the city. It is a common misconception among vampires that Nosferatu tend to be kinder and more gentle than other kindred, having been humbled by their clan curse. This is categorically false, as the sewer rats are simply clever enough to realize that since they don't have beauty going for them, they need to at least send their more socially apt kin to deal with the other clans and leave the freaks back home. The Nosferatu might not always outright demand things of their clan members. They like to keep up the pretenses of being a family after all, but there are a lot of soft threats that can be applied to make sure you do what your elders tell you. Being barred from the communal haven is one such threat, and expulsion from a brood can be extremely dangerous to younger sewer rats who have yet to master the more advanced powers of obfuscate, their discipline of hiding in plain sight, or even disguising their hideousness. This, of course, is the biggest issue for those Nosferatu who rarely, if ever, leave their barrens, so this in turn helps motivate them to do their part in helping the Brood with their brand of skills. Nosferatu who are more apt at traversing the city, or otherwise interacting with the other clans, might instead be troubled by this punishment due to being cut off from their more technologically savvy clanmates, and the wealth of information an elder might sit on. Due to their deformities, Nosferatu will generally dress inconspicuous so as to not draw attention to themselves. The classic drawn hoodie exists for a reason. As they are nocturnal, this provides immediate cover from prying eyes, and may prevent masquerade breaches if spotted from a distance. Likewise, because they tend to spend their time in the more run-down parts of any city, often together with the outcasts and homeless, they tend to prefer practical over fashionable. Getting grey water stains out from dress pants quickly becomes more than it's worth in terms of time spent, and so jeans, army surplus jackets, and other practical, cheap options tend to be favored. Of course, some Nosferatu could care less about stains and smells, and may instead simply wear whatever they find lying around, or even what they wore when they were mortals, the fabrics yellowed with age and filth. If you ever spot a pristinely dressed Nosferatu, it is safe to assume that they do this to show off, as they are most likely so capable of traversing sewers and filth that it doesn't even touch them. Or they are using their disciplines to hide the stains. Nosferatu often tend to have close relationships with the animals of the city they live in, specifically the less gentrified ones. Rats, cockroaches, pigeons, and similar pests can be manipulated by using their animalism, and may even be ridden in order to spy on activities in the city. This power, so often connected with the gangrel, who care very little for espionage, means that few kindred may suspect that scurrying rat in the corner to be a Nosferatu's mobile earpiece. This has become significantly more relevant as they are now the only clan in the larger Camarilla who wield this discipline, and thus their role as spies and scouts has become increasingly more relevant. Indeed, any prince worth their salt will see the value in having members of Clan Nosferatu on their payroll, whether it be in an official capacity or simply on the down low. Despite the recent crackdowns on the Shreknet, no other clan in the Camarilla is as suited for the work as silent enforcers and spies as the Nosferatu. Due to their disfigurement, they, out of a necessity, must learn to traverse the city undetected, meaning that aside from knowing how to employ stealth, they may also be privy to knowledge about old tunnels, byways, and other less traversed passages. Their disciplines are equally suited for the job, as obfuscate allows them to hide, remain undetected, and even blend in among mortals should they need to hide. And animalism, as I previously mentioned, allows for them to both befriend and use the many, many creatures that live off humanity's waste. Their third discipline, potence, is one often overlooked, but was, at least until the Lasombra sought membership in the sect, highly valued as well. Should the Nosferatu agent be detected, if they are trained in this discipline, their deceptively frail forms may help in catching their assailants off guard. When the Brujah left the Camarilla after the Conclave of Prague in 2012, the sect lost a large part of their enforcers as well, and the value of the Nosferatu skyrocketed. Indeed, by the time that the Lasombra joined the Camarilla, it is quite likely that the Nosferatu would have become more common sheriffs, hounds, and even scourges. A key factor that every Nosferatu must take to heart is that no one truly understands their clan if they are an outsider. They can only presume and guess what skills and abilities any given Nosferatu holds, and thus they must always make sure to keep their cards close to their hearts. Even if they lack a certain discipline, or their memory of a city's layout isn't the best, they cannot allow this bluff to be checked, and thus most Nosferatu can be almost impenetrable in discussing issues of their clan. They may be chatty and social, not entirely uncommon when a sewer rat feels at ease with their coterie, but whenever it comes to matters that may risk the status or reputation of their brood, they will often clam up, or disarmingly bring the conversation to another topic. This is of course not only out of loyalty to the brood. The Nosferatu are well aware of what powers they and their clan wield, and thus they might never know if one of their elders has decided to send a rat or two to keep an eye out on their latest recruit. Should it be made apparent that there are loose tongues involved, the unfortunate neonate may find that they will be sleeping in the proverbial doghouse for a couple of nights until they've learned their lesson. Most Nosferatu tend to be pragmatic, or at least act as if they are, and they will rarely have patience for the usual song and dance routines of the other clans such as the Ventru and Toreador. Yet, surprisingly, they often prefer their company to that of the Malkavians or Brujah. Brujah tend to be prone to emotional outbursts and are a little too quick to get into fights for the Nosferatu's liking, and Malkavians are both highly unpredictable and also tend to know things they shouldn't. As a clan who makes a living, so to speak, out of being unpredictable and knowing what they shouldn't, game recognizes game, and the sewer rats don't much enjoy the competition in this regard. But when it comes to the Toreador and Ventru, while the Nosferatu don't appreciate the decor, they do know that both of these clans in turn appreciate the help they can provide them. The Toreador and Nosferatu traditionally stand in opposition due to their relationship with beauty, but given time, most Toreador learn to appreciate less obvious aspects of the sewer rats, and the Nosferatu may find friendship in these passionate souls as well. The Ventru don't give a rat's ass, if you excuse the expression, for beauty, but they do value the information the Nosferatu can bring. On the flip side of that coin, the Nosferatu tend to be the first to be suspected by the Ventru prince should some secret of theirs be revealed to others. Thus, any Nosferatu should be careful when dealing with these two clans, because their love for learning the secrets of others is equally mirrored in their paranoia. The Tremere, however, are a clan that in many ways mirror the Nosferatu. But while clan loyalty comes out of necessity for the sewer rats, it is built into the system with the warlocks, brick by resentful brick. Backstabbing and plotting are bread and butter to the Tremere if it means they will climb in power, and they rarely trust outsiders in finding information for them, often working twice as hard to do it themselves. Thus the Tremere are rarely clients of the Nosferatu, and both parties presumably like it that way. As for the Lasombra, the Nosferatu never had much love for the Sabbat, as most Sabbat incursions into a Camarilla city would begin in those areas where the Nosferatu and the poor and destitute would make their homes. Thus, as the heart of the Sabbat has now decided to join the Camarilla, the Nosferatu are realizing that they may risk losing the initiative they've had in making themselves indispensable to the sect. Lasombra are excellent leaders and strategists. They are capable of wielding darkness and shadows to hide themselves, and they, like the Nosferatu, have the discipline of potence. They also seemingly have no ambition, at the moment at least, to oust the Ventru from their seat of power, thus making them more likely to vie for positions where they may still exert influence and employ violence. With all this in mind, the Nosferatu now, more than ever, need to remain loyal to each other, for otherwise they run the risk of quickly losing all the goodwill they have gained in the last couple of years. For someone playing as a Nosferatu, clan politics are therefore often, if not always, relevant, whether or not they actually like it. Unlike many other clans, the acts of a single Nosferatu may often reflect poorly on the entire clan in the eyes of a sect that is often looking for an excuse to ensure these peddlers of secrets know their place. The three grandchildren of Cain wait patiently for the time of judgment to arise. Bambi Parsons, a leader with an unbreakable will, Procyon, who has been reborn as a god amongst Cain's angels, and Dougal, whose thirst for blood is matched only by his strength of will and purpose. Their childer, the Methuselah, control our every move through their timeless jihad. They are Her Satanic Majesty Danny, whose mere presence chills the heart, Maximilian S. Hardcastle, a tutor and master of the jihad, Socrates Johnson, a masterful craftsman of stories, Lauren Eason, a trustworthy ally and friend, and Alexander Kishtaria, esoteric scholar and mentor in magecraft. On the Council of the Primogen are seated Edward Reed, Ian Nichols, Ravenfang, and the Autumn Alchemist, wise leaders and of good judgment. This week, the Council would wish to thank the Elder Snow for your continued insight into matters of our common interest. We would also wish to give our regards to the Ancilla Harry Wyckoff, whose service to the Council has not gone unnoticed. Thank you for your support. Naturally, all our elders, Ancillae, and neonates receive our gratitude from the bottoms of our hearts. Without your support, this would not be possible. And thank you for watching. Now be careful out there, for Gehenna may soon be upon us.